Hello, I just listened to the weather and it's going to be minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit tonight, so I thought this is a good night for chili and cornbread. I invited a couple people over. You're going to know them if you've watched my husband's channel. We'll see them later. But this is an easy recipe that was given to me. I thought the man was old when he gave it to me about 45 years ago. He must have been 60 and I was 23. But he called this recipe Texas Red Chili. Now technically, I can't remember. Does chili not have beans? Did it not have meat? Whatever. This has both. It's called Texas Red Chili. So for this Texas Red Chili, you're going to need a couple pounds of stewing beef diced. And that's what's right here. I used venison because that's what we use for our red meat. But a couple of pounds of stewing meat diced up. You're going to need a cup of onions diced, 1 green pepper diced, a clove of garlic, a 12-ounce can of tomato paste, 2.5 cups of water, diced jalapeno peppers, they're right here. Remember, if you're going to dice your own jalapenos, wear gloves or you will rue the day. And I have 1 tablespoon chili powder. And in this little thing is 1/2 teaspoon salt and 1/2 teaspoon oregano and a can of chili beans. This is 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm going to brown the meat first, so let's get going on this. After I finish the chili, I'll show you my recipe for cornbread. It's a really different recipe. I think you'll like it. As you can see, I'm heating up my grapeseed oil. I've got 2 tablespoons of that. The next thing, I will add my meat and I will brown it. I have there, mine is 1.5 pounds. The recipe says 2 pounds of stewing beef. I think this 1.5 pounds of venison is going to be plenty. There we go. You're just going to do everything in the same pot. So let me get this all browned up. Well, as you can see, the meat has browned. You just want to cut it up in little bites, bite-sized pieces, and I've just browned it. You don't want it all crusty. But the next thing you do is add your 1 cup of onion, and then your 1 pepper that you've chopped up. And I add my garlic. Now I'm going to stir this, and I'm going to cook this about 5 minutes. And we're on a medium heat, maybe a little hotter than medium. So we're going to let that cook for 5 minutes. Alright, this has been simmering for 5 minutes. The vegetables have softened a bit. Now you add the rest of the ingredients, and first is 12 ounces of tomato paste. Let's get that in there. This is really quite an easy meal. You just have to cut up an onion and a pepper and cut up the stewing meat and open a couple cans and there you go. Alright, that's in. Stir that a second. Then I'm going to add the 2.5 cups of water. There. I'm going to add the tablespoon of chili powder. This little container has a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. That's going in. Now are the jalapeno peppers. Now this is going to be, I always load light at first and I can always add more. So I'm gonna, these are already chopped up. I'm gonna add probably a couple tablespoons. We'll see how that goes. Not everybody likes it blazing hot. I can always serve it on the table too. And then I add my beans. 1 can of chili beans. And you're done. You're just going to let this simmer and it'll be done in like 1.5 hours. You can let it go on longer than that. It'll just gather more flavor. Let me stir this up. I'm waiting for this to come to a little boil and then I'll put it down on simmer. But the man who gave me this recipe, he was really old. I was about 23 at the time, about 45 years ago, and he was at least 60. Anyway, he gave me this recipe. And one thing was, he canned his own jalapenos. He loved jalapenos. And we went over to visit him, and he would just sit there drinking that jalapeno juice from the canning, from where he canned them. That always amazed me. I've never forgotten that. So I'm going to bring this to a little boil, turn it down a bit, cover it, and simmer it for an hour, 1.5 hours. Every once in a while I might stir it. You're probably going to want to do that to make sure it doesn't burn. But that was how easy it is to make chili. I know you can buy a can of chili, but really, this is really good. Minimal effort, and you're going to end up with a good meal. As you can see, it's simmering nicely. I'm going to put a lid on it, turn it down just a little, and I'll come back and visit in about 15 minutes and stir it up and see how it's doing. It's been about 20 minutes and I just checked mine. It's a good thing I did because I needed to turn my heat down even more. I've got it on the lowest setting so it just simmers because you really don't want it to burn. It'll get that burn taste. Alright, the chili is done. I'm just going to put the lid on this and let it continue to simmer. It'll probably be at least an hour before we eat, and that will be just fine. And I have it on my lowest setting. I tasted it and it's not too spicy. I would like to add some more jalapenos, but I better not because I don't know about my company. Next, I'm going to move on to the cornbread. Alright, to put together the cornbread, I have my 2 cups of Bob's Red Mill coarse ground cornmeal. And I'm making a double batch, so I have 2 cups in here, 2 cups of flour. Alright, here's my 1 teaspoon of salt. And I have 2 tablespoons of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'll mix these together before I add my liquids. This is very easy to make, very tasty. Now I'm going to add my milk. That's 2 cups because I'm making a double batch, 2 eggs, and a half a cup of butter. Let me get this stirred together. There we go, all set for the oven. We'll put that in for 20 minutes at 425 degrees. So here we go, hot chili, hot cornbread, family, a cold night. It doesn't get any better than that. So we're about to dish up the cornbread, put whatever you want on it, pure maple syrup or honey. Ooh. Take your choice and make your chili as hot as you want. By the way, you know these two. I told you at the beginning you know these two. This is Paula and Dave. They visited the cabin in the fall. So you remember them.
Yep.